you guys like kicked us in the nuts twice with that in a way.
Well, everyone has their own kind of
Both
luck.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both nuts. You hit the left one, and then it was like, oh,
Mm.
Frank Reich made this decision. Well, there goes the
Yeah.
left. There goes the
Boys, go
right
back
one.
there, hit that rat now too now.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Cold Blooded Podcast, and this is our very first Bleeding with the Enemy edition. All right, that's my co-host Drew Lynch,
And that's my co-host Isaac Allen. And
and our guest today is, unfortunately, Texans diehard fan Radu Bondar. Just kidding, man. We love you. How you doing, buddy?
Say, what it do?
Okay, that's cool.
That's how
a
a person from Houston would say hello.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
without
Oh,
any gang signs, I feel
That was
like this is
happening.
yeah. Oh, okay, there.
that's how you guys got Tyler Goodson to drop that pass last year on 4th and 1. The defender was like, "What it do?" And he was like, "Ah," and then he dropped it.
Bro,
Every
that's how the
time.
Asian people talk from Houston.
Yeah,
Every time I meet somebody from Houston, they hold up something, and I don't know
yeah.
what it
H
is.
Town.
Oh, okay, yeah, something like that.
It's an
Yeah.
H, which
Did
is
you
very
say you said
H-Town.
Asians talk? You said Asians talk like that in Houston?
yeah.
That explains why those are the ones I hate. You know. Let's go ahead and put the ball in your court because guess what? You're in hostile territory. Like every podcast you do is like a home game, and it's like always 2-on-1 or 2-on-2. So Drew and I want to be fair. You know, we're Colts fans. We're not heathens.
What we're kind of wanting to know is how you feel this offseason has been addressed in a way that really gets you most excited for the upcoming season.
Oh, it's for a layman fan, for a casual fan, this would be a season of hope. This would be something you go, oh wow, based on the track record and indicator of last season, we should be seeing something exciting. But for a real diehard Texans fan that understands what this expansion franchise means, you go, this might have been a blip. Any level of happiness you get from this team comes with 3 steps backwards, you know? Like, this should be a moment where I should be gloating about, oh, the offensive firepower, the receiving core. You guys might end up with a 7-10 record. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here, you know, when they bring on a minority on Fox News to talk about how cool white people are. I'm here to ingratiate myself to Colts Nation and be like, what is this? What? We're going to get one cool season. You guys are the franchise. We're the little brother in the AFC South. We plan our personnel packages around you.
I mean, listen, man. Drew and I actually we talked about this in a couple episodes, and like our least hated team in the like fellow team in the AFC South is actually the Texans. We can't stand the Titans. They're at the bottom. For Drew. For me, it's the Jaguars because of the team. It's the Titans because of the fans. But Texans fans have kind of like been dealing with the same problems that we've been dealing with the past like decade, where it's just like, where's the QB stability? Why is it one-sided on which part of the ball is better than the other part of the ball? That like if the offense is good, the defense is never
Can't
good.
cook
If
on
the
the other side.
defense,
Yeah.
I can appreciate that you're actually coming from it from a place of not being overly confident because there are
Mhm.
here's the thing is like there are a lot of overly confident Texans fans that I've seen kind of online and that I don't know how much that counts for anything, but I will say that it it doesn't feel like it's the overwhelming majority, but it is refreshing to know that there are still Texans fans who any reasonable fan should have some sort of doubt going into the season. But I will say that it is cool to see Texans fans actually being excited. I just think that they are expressing it sometimes in a way that is I don't know. It might be overcompensating for the fact that you guys haven't had something to be excited about in a very long time. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, for real. People
yeah.
don't understand sports and curses, right? They look at stats, they look at money, and they go, these should be clear indicators. And you go,
Yeah.
and yet you've seen some of the most heartbreaking shit imaginable, right?
Yeah.
I remember a
Yeah.
time where we could not field a good special teams. Our offense was cooking, our defense was historic, but you could throw on it. And for some reason, we couldn't. And we had Do you know who our special teams players at the time were? Again, we had just the worst. It was like Trindon Holiday and the guy who returned. He just really recently passed. The guy who returned a kickoff return in the Super Bowl for the Ravens.
Oh, wow.
Jacoby Jones.
Jacoby Jones. Yeah, both were on the team
Wow.
at the same time. Right. So it's like we just had these cursed situations where you go, how can we not get it together? How could we have Wade Phillips sort of figuring things out as a defensive coordinator, and then he gets
Wade
interim head
Phillips.
coach, and he's like, "Oh, I missed the stroke guy. What happened to that?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so you have to remember that this team is in a great, people say the sleeper pick for a late playoff run. 2 years ago, there was, people that were turning down the president of football operations jobs because they were like, "Is Jack Easterby still there?" Okay, no, sorry, can't do it. Like serious.
Wow. Wow.
So this is a very quick amount of time to make this turnaround. It doesn't happen without other franchises fucking up. I don't know if I can swear on this, but
Yeah, go for it.
if the Browns aren't allowed to really be themselves and make their freeform decisions like they do, we are in the gutter. I mean, we are stuck 5-6 years behind our own trading away the picks. So it's a little bit of just being able to not make moves. Something the Texans were they would upset their fans with. We just never made moves in the offseason, never made moves, and then finally baited our time, kind of like Littlefinger in a Game of Thrones sort of way, and made so many moves this offseason. So that should be something the fans are proud of. But trust comes with results, and that's just something I haven't seen yet.
Right. So I feel you being cautiously optimistic is definitely warranted. What I will say, I wonder what you feel was the thing that potentially changed your guys's luck or your curse around. A part of me thinks that when Lovie Smith tried to still kind of shove it to the Texans organization by winning, and it's still just backfiring in a way where David Tepper from the Panthers taking Bryce Young kind of lets CJ Stroud fall in your lap, and then you guys were aggressive for the best defensive player on last year's draft as well. Like it to me, that was just like there was something in like the ethers of like that move trying to be forced. It kind of like, I don't know, there was just like some good juju that kind of came back your way. And I've
Very
never
much so.
seen an organization so quickly monopolize or really capitalize on all of the moves that they made that can really, like, one thing catapults to a next thing to the next thing to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's really been insane.
I think speaking on the good juju, think about what had to happen for them to get Stroud. The Panthers passed him up to take Bryce Young. And who was the head coach of the Panthers when they made that decision? Frank Reich, who was what? The Colts coach
The
who
former
got
Colts
fired.
coach, yeah.
So it's like that's like you guys like kicked us in the nuts twice with that in a way.
Well, everyone has their own kind of
Both
luck.
nuts.
Yeah.
Both nuts. You hit the left one, and then it was like, oh, Frank Reich made this decision. Well, there goes the left.
Boys,
the right
go back
one.
there, hit that rat now too. Now,
yeah. I think the Texans are known for that. Just a couple of nut hitters.
Teams have their
own bunch of nut hitters.
Teams have their own style in many ways, right? All things equal, and luck is very similar. We this is a very Texans kind of fortune because for Bryce Young to be taken before C.J. Stroud, this perception of C.J. Stroud, we have to go back and remember what it was before he enters the league. When it's a lot of offensive experts are going, this guy's got bust written all over him, but like this is another Ohio State quarterback that's about to steal a paycheck, and 4 years from now he's selling fancy cars. I'm telling you, like
right.
So that if that it isn't kind of pervasive enough to just make somebody make the run, so that's how the Texans fall backwards into luck. We Mr. Magoo our way into stuff, The Colts have, a incredible transition from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, something, that like other franchises are pulling their hair out of trying to figure out how that happens.
Thanks for the reminder.
Doesn't end as beautifully as you think it will, but again, that stability. Same for the expectations were high for going from what's his name in Green Bay to Aaron Rodgers, who was the famous quarterback before.
Brett Favre.
Exactly, yeah.
To Rodgers. Brett Favre to Rodgers, and then Rodgers to Love. Yeah.
A level of continuity that you go, what did you do? What is the devil giving you that you, or what have you given the Satan?
What deal have you made with the devil?
At the same time, the expectation is so high because of that continuity. Even a Super Bowl win is like, you kind of underachieved there, So it's
Yeah.
Our style is not to just get fortune about fortune and fortune. Our style is like you kind of look around, you go, oh, a lot of other people slipped up for us to really,
Yeah. So I would say the thing that I to your guys's to your guys's credit, and then I guess to your own deterrent, is that you have highs and lows, like especially with like the instability and the volatility of the Deshaun Watson of it all, and then
Mhm.
um you know, like like kind of like having losing record and top five picks like kind of back to back, but then in a way you like, just like we're just talking about, like that eventually that volatility is going to stabilize. And the fact of the matter is you guys were so not competitive that you kind of you backed your way into some top level like
Mm.
blue chip talent, and then you kind of struck at the right time by changing GMs, changing head coaches. You definitely got
Mhm,
the right head coach, and then
Yeah.
mhm.
based on the rookie season, it by all accounts it appears you have the quarterback as well. And so quarterback coach combination and a GM that doesn't sit on his hands, like he's clearly putting his efforts to improve the roster in areas where they might have been a little like there might have been some holes.
Hmm.
But I guess going back to the opening question, Radu, what is it that you feel like? I know that you're cautiously optimistic, but what is it that you feel truly is like, I can confidently say I feel good about this going into this season? And then what are some holes that you feel are like, okay, this is where I feel like we have some glaring weaknesses still?
Um, One of the things that feels good is like being able to overcome yourself in many ways. I always kind of joke that the Texans are a cursed franchise, but the money to buy the Texans that Robert McNair pointed up came from him selling his business to Enron. He's one of the few people that wasn't indicted. So it's like it starts off with this market shadow, and it almost feels like we deserve some of the things that come our way.
I see.
At some point now, Cal, the son, has like emboldened. I don't know if it's his sister, his wife. I'm not sure. There's like a female face now, and she is cool. I don't even, I think her name's Heather or something. I just kind of started paying attention to the front office and personnel again because it's something that was like such a dark stain. Remember,
Mm.
Robert McNair said that inmates running the asylum quote, which is just like a god damn, someone take
Dude,
his
you
microphone
gotta
away.
you gotta remember our franchise up and ran away from Baltimore in the middle of the night. So we know exactly
Of
what bad
course,
juju coming from a from
yeah.
like an
And
ownership situation is.
and old Jim Irsay himself has sort of a Jim Leahy quality. If you're a Trailer Park Boys fan, like he's
Oh
almost
yeah.
he's almost something the team has to overcome. And it feels like
Man,
both.
I got a lot of guitars, right? You wanna come over and check out some of my guitars, man?
It feels like in a weird cursed way, both of our franchises were locked together in we were like always looking to overcome your offense. And you guys realized you had to struggle through our defensive times. We knew we were never going to win in Indianapolis. It was something that, very little brotherly or whatever. And then it takes
Or
this big.
TY.
That's true. Oh, yeah, Ty being a nightmare, and then Andre Johnson leaving from our team and being just the reverse nightmare again. It was this. It's poetic. There has to be writers involved, is what it feels like.
Oh
And
man.
both teams have
Absolutely.
a combustive, just dynamic collapse, and we're able to
So
separate from one another's kind of energy for a while, build independently, and then we've come back stronger for it, both sides, I think.
I agree. And I have two questions I have to ask because I think it's important for how you're
Please.
going to view this week one matchup. One, do you have, well, this one's more of a past thing, but do you have sympathy for Deshaun Watson, or do you feel like like you guys kind of hate him? Because I feel like if I was a Texans fan, I would have sympathy because of what we went through with Luck, where it's like they never gave him an offensive line. He had a bottom five offensive line, mostly ranked last almost every year he was playing, and yet Luck was overachieving. And the same thing happened with Watson. They never gave him an O line, and he overachieved, and now he might as well be retired, just like Luck.
Yeah, and he gave us, like the twisted dark sort of thing is like he as much downfall and pain and whatever, he did give us almost as much, hope, potential, these crazy feelings. That game in Seattle in 2017. Again, the cursedness comes up though. It's not a football thing, but the Astros win their first World Series in 2017, which has its own dark stain on it. And literally 2 or 3 days later, or maybe the next day, Deshaun Watson tears his ACL, MCL. So we like the
Mm.
city of Houston is never able to enjoy something fully
Wow.
without
Yeah.
some other petition coming your way. It's almost like when LeBron won the, finals, and then he finds out a few weeks later Kyrie's about to leave. And you're like, it's
Yeah.
So it's
everything.
like,
It's all
so
conspiring.
it sounds like you have sympathy for Deshaun, but you're more just upset as a Texans fan, like as a Houston
I got
fan.
to meet Deshaun. I worked for ESPN 97.5 for a few years, ESPN Houston, and they would send me out to. I was the lowest level employee there, by the way. They would send me out
Naturally.
to these things called player camps or whatever. It's like where they're players interacting with like 6-year-old, 7-year-old kids, sometimes 14-year-olds, different, just doing
I
media
did one of
event
those
stuff.
for Indy. I did one of
Yeah,
those in
yeah,
Indy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I'm taking pictures with these guys, like, I'm always saying, trying to make them laugh or something. When I met James Harden, I'm like, will you do that media face, And he's like, whatever. And with Deshaun, I was like, hey, man, you're a Clemson guy. Like, it must be hard having to watch like U of H football here, huh? Like, this is some of the worst college football you could ever see in your life, huh? And he's like, nah, I won't ever say that. Like, he couldn't even like roll along with like a little bit of light ribbing of a team he's not
Oh.
affiliated. He was just that. He was Mr. Houston for a while. I mean, he gave, I think, entire game checks away after Hurricane Harvey hit.
Mm.
This is a person that ingratiated themselves to the fan base so quickly. And what really did this fan base demand? I mean, Indy, similar, like you guys are a basketball town in many ways. Like you have other satiations of sports, but you have this demand for football. You just want it. Houston, the same way. We never really had a quarterback since Warren Moon. I mean, the Matt Schaub years were dire because you're like, this is the best the game manager can be. We're looking at Andy Dalton. We're like, I hope that's better. Like, that's a shinier toy. And then all of a
Uh,
sudden, you get this dynamic guy who's like won the NCAA title. Like it's just the stars are aligning.
I've never thought of the Texans as a team born in darkness. I feel like we all just looked at the Texans as this fun little team, spunky little team that's sort of
Yeah.
like the same way America looks at the Brits. Like we're just like, oh, they're just like cute the way they talk, spot of tea. Like that's kind of how we Colts fans
And
look
it
at
was a team
Houston.
that was
It's like, oh,
overpaid for by quite a bit. I think they were
yeah.
the NFL was trying to get 300 to 400 million dollars at the time, and because McNair is selling his whole business to Enron, he has just dump
Yeah.
trucks full of cash. He's able to pay nearly $1 billion and outbid Tillman Fertitta, the current owner of the Houston Rockets and the main contributor to the U of H Houston. Like, this guy who also who knows what his journey would have been like, but there was a lot of Houston sports royalty and stability ready at the helm, and they were undercut by this Enron money family. No disrespect
Mm.
to the McNairs, they've
Yeah.
really we've like I said, we've been able to overcome ourselves in a way and overcome our origins.
And that's something that I wanted to talk about was that you like there is some sort of energetic principle. I don't know if it's a law. I don't know. Like, I don't, but there is just some sort of energy that is applicable to both, individuals and probably this very situation. It could probably apply to an entire franchise, which is that, you kind of that there's that feeling sometimes that you get what you deserve, or you can't ever like get out of what that feeling is. And there is actually a huge victory in saying something like, I feel like we can come back from ourselves. Like there is, because then when you don't have that air underneath you, that kind of, or that air that's kind of like, yeah, well, that's the way it goes. Like then there's no ferocity, there's no change of second wind, there's no like, it's like someone who kind of has an energy around maybe being injured, then they're going to get injured. Like it's like if you make that kind of like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
of
They
course
almost
Mm.
that's going to
manifested it.
happen,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, like Isaac and I talked about this too. It's a little bit like how Josh Allen, really, I mean, prior to his rookie year, like Josh Allen, for as much as he's as physical as he is and as much as he runs, like he doesn't get as injured as maybe he could, because he just knows how to
Right.
like. There's just not like a feeling of like, like you don't get that feeling. But if you have a quarterback or another position group where you kind of get that feeling, it is just kind of like, yeah, that's how it goes. And that is interesting in the way that that kind of principle would apply to what you're talking about right now, where it's like, no, you can overcome your differences. You can overcome like where it is that your weakness,
I didn't think that the cold-blooded podcast was going to become a mental health healing podcast as
Well,
well.
no,
Like
no,
two
I just mean
franchises
like
putting it all together finally.
no, I just think like there is something about that. It's like, it's like
It really
it's like
is.
Yeah.
when a quarterback, like when when you have a good enough like look at look at how impenetrable the Chiefs are, because if Mahomes throws an interception, if Mahomes throws three, you don't they don't even flinch. You know what I'm saying? There's no,
Yeah.
but we've all had that feeling where an interception is thrown once by a quarterback and the game is over. You just know. You're just like, you just
Have
know
you
it.
watched
Or
have you
Harrison
watched
Butker throws a cultural interception, and you're like,
yeah,
the
and double
regime
down.
is so
He threw
strong,
two.
and it's so
Yeah.
the culture of the team is so strong. They can fade that. They can be like, all right, whatever. It's not a you're our Dennis
Well,
Rodman for
also,
this moment.
but also Radu, he's a kicker, so there's less of like the spotlight. If he says that, everyone's like, "Oh, silly little kicker saying that." But if like Kelsey were to say that, and the Swifties came after him, that'd be like a
I
whole
know there's
another
something
thing.
so like I love. Remember Arizona had a kicker, I think Jay Feely, that like got busted for steroids, and you're like,
Oh
they
yeah,
should all
yeah,
be on steroids. That's hilarious. The
100%. I
kicker
want to
should be
start
the
seeing
only.
70-yard field goals, bro. I want to
Yeah,
see like
dude.
80, like kicking it from like your
Well,
own end
no,
zone,
he didn't even do
knocking
like
it through.
his legs were normal looking. His top half was huge. He was like getting ready to
Yeah.
like tackle guys. It was amazing.
All
What
right. Well,
is it
so
to
speaking about controversy, the second question I wanted to ask: how do you feel moving forward to week one now? How do you feel that Steph Diggs is going to be in the locker room of the Texans?
It's look, when you bring in a guy, whatever you want to call him, hothead, passionate, whatever that kind of thing, you look for who that can balance out with. What temperament is that going to attach to really well? And no one better to, I think, than CJ Stroud. I mean, we've been able to see that in games. We've been able to see that in moments where people are really like locked in with him and like, oh, he's, able to absorb that and it's not affecting the rest of the team because they're following that. We've been able to see that in interviews where he's talking to Pat McAfee, your all's boy, and Tom and Bert show up and just stink up the place. They're like, you know, CJ Stroud's like, I don't drink. He tells him like four times, and it just becomes this insanely awkward thing for a second, and then his charisma locks in. You're like, oh, everyone's feeling good for a second. Pat McAfee's distancing himself as a comedian. He's like, I'm a football player right now, and it just
Yeah.
becomes this strange thing until CJ decides he's like, oh, that's right. I'm a charismatic leader when I want to be. So this is a guy that I think is up to the task. Now we'll see who else snaps because this is an incredible receiving. Robert Woods is I think the fourth or fifth receiver on
Yeah.
this depth chart right now,
Yeah.
and it's not like you guys have a bad receiving core either. You guys have a fantastic
It's
core.
sneaky.
It's
Sneaky.
yeah. I hope Downs is healthy soon because I think he's also a
Yeah.
returner too. So you're missing kind of two holes there when he's out. But
Well, we drafted Anthony Gould, and he did pretty well in the preseason with returning kicks. So we'll see. We'll see what
I'm
happens.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the receiving core, it's like a no-brainer, It's like you have a gun, you need to get it ammo, and it's just like
Mhm.
an accurate quarterback. You need to be able to give him some weapons, and
We
the
got a
fact
running
that
back
you've
around
got
him who can catch a couple passes. The hacky joke with Joe
yeah,
Mixon is great
So
hands.
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to say that with a
yeah.
southern accent, by the way, Drew. You can't. If we're talking about
Oh,
Houston, so you got to
sorry.
be
You
like,
need a
got a
gun. You
gun.
gotta get it some ammo. You gotta get it some rounds. Um. So then this is what I've got. Here's the thing. I've got 7.5 minutes left of
Yeah.
recording that Zoom is letting me. So I want to ask you,
Predictions?
Radu, before no, not just yet. I mean, but I
Okay.
want to ask you. Okay, we know the strengths of what this team can do. You've added to your front with Daniil Hunter. You've got Will Anderson coming off of a D-Roy year. You've got a most accurate rookie season from a quarterback with some freaking holes being plugged and now a backfield and a wide receiving core, a coach like defensive minded, but a great play caller in your offensive coordinator. Like you've got, it almost seems like you have just such a balanced roster, no really glaring weaknesses from someone who is not within maybe the fan base. But if there were to be a glaring weakness that you have going into this season, or not, maybe not so glaring, but just something that you don't feel so confident about, what do you think that is for this team?
You're going to be able to run on us. It's just a fact of the either early part of the season or maybe a part of our, defensive identity to some degree. We're going to get to your quarterback. We're going to add a lot of pressure. We're balanced in that way. You guys had an incredible amount of sacks last year. I think 50 sacks, 56 or whatever. But then I think second, right?
Fifth.
It was or fifth. Whatever. It was up there. But then pressures and other things, late hits, whatever, way lower, closer to 22nd. So it wasn't really a balanced amount of pressure. It was like, when we get to you, we're going to punch you in the dick. But aside from that, sometimes your line's taking care of you. Ours is maybe not as many sacks, but we're really just getting to you on all the different kinds of levels. But here's the sneaky thing. You can kind of throw on all our linebackers because with Harris out for a while, we got the guy everyone's excited about. Al-Shaair. Yeah, I always have to look at his name. By the way, when a Muslim athlete is in Houston, great things happen. That's a phenomenal historic trend, I promise you. Especially Ramadan, when that's coming, it's over, baby. Because it's so debilitating to lose. You're like, no water, even? God damn. All right. So, but energetic guy who's not great in coverage. So our linebackers are easy to throw on potentially. And you don't really want to test Derek Stingley Jr. too much, but in that first, let's say, run of games, maybe the first 3 games, it's interesting to see what the identity of our DBs and safeties is really going to be. Because these are guys that we're expecting a lot, but who knows?
It does feel like that you guys know your identity more going into week 1 than the Colts do a little bit, maybe it's just because, go ahead.
It's because the quarterback, right, Drew? It's because we just haven't seen it. We saw 2.5 games from Richardson. You know what I mean? Like that's the only reason why.
Also, the suspensions and the injuries. You guys are missing your sack leader, and there's a lot of expectation coming in on the rookie. Yeah.
So we only got a couple minutes left. So I'll give you my prediction real quick for this week 1. I think we're going to barely win. It's going to be like 2017 or 23-20 or something like that, because I think you guys are in the unfortunate, the one weakness, like you said, run defense, and we have JT. But I think also having Richardson, you guys are going to be the unfortunate team to first endure the RPO of Richardson and Taylor. And I think that for this game, it's going to be in Indy, it might just be too much to handle. Yeah. Just for this one game.
I can see that. It's a modern offense. This is a 2024 ass game.
What do you think, though?
2024 ass game.
It is. I mean,
I love that. No, I
think we were talking about this in the group. Like the worst case scenario is like some sort of defensive showcase.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I saw that. I think I saw somebody say
the
that.
Coordinators are cooking today, Phil. Nightmare outcome.
So give us a score prediction then. What do you think?
Ideally, overtime. I mean, we're talking 33-30 somehow. I could see you guys taking it. Honestly, I could see this. This is my bold, dumb guy prediction. I could see this being the first and only draw of the season.
Oh, all right.
No, I don't even know how you get to that mathematically.
Again.
I don't know if you know this, Radu. When you talk about curses, the Colts have not won in week 1 in like the last 10 seasons or something. Honestly,
I know, and this would be a perfect way to kind of skirt. It's like it's not a loss, and it's
that's weird.
Have you guys had a tie in week 1 before too?
No, we almost did last year. Almost
last year.
Yeah. Almost did.
A tie in the NFL. I mean, it's one of the weirdest feelings. I truly wish it upon everybody. It's everybody should feel winning, true. But a tie is like when you get change in $2 bills. You're like, I can't spend this really, and like I don't know why I like it, but I don't really like it.
Just put it up on the wall, like I guess it's the wall of shame.
It's upsetting endorphins, So
yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Drew? What do you think? Honestly,
I don't have a great feeling about it, and I just think that's just because history is just not really on our side. And like I said, I just think, I think people are underestimating how or rather overestimating how bad our secondary is. Like, I don't know how to say this, but I don't think our secondary is as bad as people think it will be. I do think it's not great, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people maybe are projecting it to be. And there's what I just want to see is for this game, if the Colts, I think if the Colts don't maintain, if they don't take care of the ball, and if they don't,
Sure.
keep CJ Stroud off the field, I think it can be a very long day very fast. Now, this could be
Agreed.
this has the range of what the possibilities of this game that could be is huge, because I think that it could be a game where it is like high scoring, and you're like, this is insane. This is what's to come in the next however long. You know what I
And
mean?
from a mentality perspective, sorry to interrupt, but what if it's Jonathan Taylor carrying the load and everyone's like, well, Michael Pittman's the offensive MVP, and it just starts that weird.
Yeah, it could be weird like that too, but I also could see it just being a total blowout, and this game really determines how the Colts feel about how their season's going to be moving forward as well.
Yes.
So, we got less than a minute right now, but yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds like the predictions are nobody's happy with their predictions.
Yeah, no one's so happy.
I mean, there's such a
glad
mutual
that you were able to be on, Radu. We got to wrap
and
up.
it's such a mutual respect between like the two teams, I feel like. So it's good. It's the first time we've had Bleeding with the Enemy. Drew, let's give it up for Radu for coming in.
Thanks for having me. So fun.
Appreciate it.